got a request from somebody to kind of show them how to block out, because they were having trouble whenever they block out a panel on their car. It would always turn out wavy, and they would keep adding filler and blocking and adding filler and blocking and never getting it smooth. So you see there's a lot of filler on this particular Fender. It's not because there's a lot of dents necessarily that are like really deep. I did a bunch of hammering and dollying metal work on this, so it has like little ripples in it in all kinds of places. Not everywhere, as you see the mud is everywhere, but this is a good way to do the fender, or you know, a bedside, whatever you're working on. If there's several little imperfections, dents, things that you need to get smoothed out, it's a good idea just to do a skim coat over the entire part, because it's the easiest way to block it out and get it smooth, because 95% of this will get sanded off. And so it's not going to be a fender covered in filler. So, but like I said, it's a good idea to do this, cover it like this, a skim coat, a pretty thin coat, fill in the little areas, the ripples or little dents first, and then go over it afterwards, the whole thing like this, and then you try to make it as smooth as possible because they make it easier on you. And then this is off a rounded piece. I like to use linear blocks a lot, but this is a really good block for something like this on this really curved fender. This thing has a lot of flex to it, so I can really shape it really well. And then you just have to remember, this is really strong metal, doesn't have a lot of flex to it, so I can push a little bit harder on it than you can on a newer car that has thinner metal. But you do an X pattern, it's really, I've noticed, because I've had people help me sand cars that aren't very familiar with how to do it, and I show them how to do it, and it's inevitable that within a few minutes I'll come back and I'll watch what they're doing, and there'll be a spot that they're trying to sand down, and they'll be concentrating on it, and then they'll go this way, or they'll even do this because they just want to get this area that they think they need to sand that area down. You don't want to ever concentrate on a spot. You want to look at the whole part as one piece, that you're trying to sand the whole piece as one. So you don't ever concentrate on a spot. You have to always have to keep moving, and you want to be even, as much sand in this place and that place, all about the same amount. And you just overlap, like you could do it in sections, but you want to overlap and try to watch what you're doing, and keep your movement up and down, up and down, up and down, as far as you can go, or at least to the end of the mud, to the end of the panel, if that's possible. This I break it off into two, and I do overlaps kind of in the middle, because it's so big it would be kind of difficult to do it that way. I'll do it that way later on once I get it in primer, because I want to make sure that it's really smooth. But I'll just do a little bit of blocking. And the reason I mentioned about pressing hard, because that's another thing that people often do on like newer cars with thin metal, is they get the blocking on it and they get the pushing really hard, and when they do that, it flexes the metal a little bit, and believe it or not, that is going to cause you problems. It's going to make you have ripples, unevenness, because every time you go across this section of the sheet metal, if it's pushing down when you go across it, then it's not sanding like it should be sanding, obviously, and it's a little flat spot, or it'll have a little groove to it, or you'll be creating a low spot, basically. I just do an X pattern. Try to, if you have a flat straight block on a flat panel or a curved surface, you want to make sure that your block is, for the most part, in complete contact with what you're working on. Big stroke. I put my knee up against this thing because it's not bolted on tight enough. I'm using 36 grit right now because I'm just really trying to get as much cut off as fast as I can. I actually put this filler on yesterday and sanded it today, which is usually not the best idea. It's a lot less work the sooner you get to it. Like if you can put the filler on and then start blocking on it 20 minutes later, it will cut so much easier and so much faster for you. And good quality filler helps too. I've actually used like the Bondo you buy at O'Reilly's many years ago, and unless they've changed something, that stuff is so horrible. And I can see if like somebody goes there and they're working on their own car and they're not really familiar with, you know, doing body work, and they use that, how they get really discouraged and not be able to figure it out, because that stuff, it dries like concrete. You spend so much time just trying to get that stuff cut down that you end up causing all kinds of other problems because there's so much sanding involved. And just to get that stuff down, you want something that's somewhat soft, especially if you're just doing a section, like a small area, and you don't have it covered. Because if whatever's surrounding what you're working on, if it's softer than the filler, then you're never going to get it flat. Your filler has to be softer. Like if this was a dent, and I just had filler right here, if this is harder than like the paint and clear or whatever that is out here, then what I'll end up doing is sanding all this down to the metal, and this will still be high. And then I'm just sitting here trying to get that down flat, and by the time I do, I messed up the whole shape of this area, and I have to basically re-body work it again. I hope that makes sense. And but yeah, I hope I answered the question about how to block out a panel. And this is going to take me a little while, obviously. Like I said, this old car is a 38 Chevy. All had ripples all down the sides. There's patched panels in here, down here at the bottom, and I think over here there's been a patch put in, and then there's a quarter round metal welded in all around the inside of this thing, around the lip, to give it extra support, because it was pretty flimsy. And then this thing has a couple brackets to get bolted to it that hold it up, make it sturdy when it's all said and done. That's another thing, obviously, right here. I was standing up in this section, and I wasn't standing down here because this section actually is curved in right now, and it needs its brace, which will hold it out, and then that'll be its shape. So if I were to start blocking on it now and pushing that down like that, it's going to cause me, when I bring the bracket in and put it up like this, that it probably wouldn't be very much, but there would be some kind of an issue where the continuity of this whole fender going back would be off a little bit. So, but let me know if you guys have any questions about anything else, and I'll try to make a video and show you guys how I would tackle it.